OpenAI suspends a developer over a campaign chatbot, and New Hampshire voters get a robocall from an AI Biden. Among those who are concerned about artificial intelligence in society, there are a portion of people who are highly focused on existential risk type of issues. Runaway AI, either maliciously or even benignly, wreaking havoc, taking over systems, causing problems, even leading to human extinction. On the other hand, there are those who are also nervous about AI, who are focused on a much closer here and now set of issues, and chief among them has to be concerns around how AI will be used in the context of the 2024 presidential elections in the United States. Now, of course, this is a broader election concern in general, but the US presidential election is undeniably the big show. Over the past few months, we've seen all of the various platforms, the Metas of the world, the Googles, and the OpenAIs update their policies in terms of service to reflect a new approach to dealing with these issues. For example, OpenAI has made a number of updates. On January 15th, OpenAI published a blog post called How OpenAI is Approaching 2024 Worldwide Elections. There were a couple new updates that were announced in that post. Two that are relevant for the stories today are these ones. They write, "We're still working to understand how effective our tools might be for personalized persuasion. Until we know more, we don't allow people to build applications for political campaigning and lobbying." They also write, "People want to know and trust they are interacting with a real person, business, or government. For that reason, we don't allow builders to create chatbots that pretend to be real people, e.g. candidates, or institutions, e.g. local government." Finally, they write, "We don't allow applications that deter people from participation in democratic processes. For example, misrepresenting voting processes and qualifications, e.g. when, where, or who is eligible to vote, or that discourage voting, e.g. claiming a vote is meaningless." As you'll see from today's episode, all of those have come into play in some way. Now, a couple of days ago, people started reporting about a campaign bot called Dean.bot for the Dean Phillips campaign. Now, if you're wondering who Dean Phillips is, he is a Democrat dark horse who's basically making an argument that as much as he respects President Biden, America doesn't want another Biden presidency, and that effectively the Democrats need a younger candidate. In so many words. Indeed, the Washington Post wrote about a super PAC that is supporting the Dean Phillips campaign that's backed by, among others, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. The political action committee is called We Deserve Better and was created by two Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, Matt Krisiloff and Jed Summers. It was formed in December after they saw the dwindling of Biden's poll numbers. Writes the Washington Post, "The PAC's efforts, though unlikely to move the needle for a challenger who has gained very little traction despite Biden's unpopularity, reflect enduring discontent among Democrats, including wealthy donors, with the president's candidacy, and suggest that a new class of Silicon Valley donors on the left may be among the few willing to act on that sentiment." Now, the article kind of shows how technically true news can be, even when it's not leading people to true conclusions. For example, the subheader of this piece says, "A new super PAC tied to OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and billionaire Bill Ackman is backing Democratic challenger Dean Phillips." However, about 300 words down the page, you read this. To fund their group, Krisiloff and Summers tapped into their elite techie network, recruiting 17 donors who include Neil Khosla, a health entrepreneur and son of billionaire venture capitalist Vinod Khosla, and Jed McCaleb, a billionaire cryptocurrency entrepreneur. Krisiloff, a former chief of staff to Sam Altman, approached the OpenAI CEO about getting involved, but he ultimately declined to invest, Krisiloff said. So the ties to OpenAI CEO Sam Altman that they're referring to is simply the fact that one of the people who started this used to work for him, which is obviously very different than the funder relationship that they intimated before. Now, in addition to news about who this PAC is, the big focus of the story was that they had created an AI bot called Dean.bot. Now, even at the time that the article came out, it appears that the group We Deserve Better wasn't unaware of the policy changes over at OpenAI. Writes the Post, "After the Washington Post asked We Deserve Better about the policy, the group said that it had requested the service provider that it had contracted to build the bot, a startup called DALL-E, remove ChatGPT from Dean.bot and rely instead on other open source models that had gone into making the tool, and that DALL-E had agreed to do so. OpenAI said it was looking into the issue." Well, 4 days later, once again from the Washington Post, we have this piece. OpenAI suspends bot developer for presidential hopeful Dean Phillips. It's the ChatGPT maker's first known action against the use of its technology in a political campaign. Said an OpenAI spokesperson in a statement, "Anyone who builds with our tools must follow our usage policies. We recently removed a developer account that was knowingly violating our API usage policies, which disallow political campaigning or impersonating an individual without consent." Now, the co-founder of DALL-E said that the company was simply incorrect in its interpretation of OpenAI's terms of service. Basically, they thought that a political action committee that supports a candidate would be allowed to create a clone of that candidate. However, super PACs legally may not coordinate with or seek permission from candidates that they are supporting. Now, beyond just the OpenAI usage, the broader question is how these tools will impact the relationship that voters have to the election process. Again, from the Post, the bot included a disclaimer explaining that it was an AI tool and not the real Dean Phillips, and required that voters consent to its use. But researchers told the Post that such technologies could lull people into accepting a dangerous tool, even when disclaimers are in place. Proponents, including We Deserve Better, argued that the bots, when used appropriately, can educate voters by giving them an entertaining way to learn more about a candidate. Without disclaimers, experts have said, the technologies could enable mass robocalls to voters who think they're talking to actual candidates or supporters. AI systems can also produce disinformation in ads or content such as fake websites at scale. Now, that set the stage perfectly for yet another story, which is that recently in New Hampshire, in advance of today's primary, a fake Biden robocall, presumably created with artificial intelligence, was telling New Hampshire Democrats not to go out and vote. The call, which imitated Biden's voice, said, "Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again." Let's actually listen quickly to a part of that message.
What a bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2 now.
So, in a statement, the Attorney General's office said, although the voice in the robocall sounds like the voice of President Biden, this message appears to be artificially generated based on initial indications. These messages appear to be an unlawful attempt to disrupt the New Hampshire presidential primary election and to suppress New Hampshire voters. New Hampshire voters should disregard the content of this message entirely. Now, I think the real question for this is how people are going to respond to it. One thing that's not clear right now is how many people actually got this call, but what is clear is that it's making massive news. This is absolutely everywhere on every news outlet, and I think that every time that happens, people's suspicious hackles are going to be raised a little bit more. My sense is that we're already developing an autoimmune response to this sort of deepfake, but that doesn't mean that it still won't be damaging in the context of the election. It's why I continue to think that this election will be important as a bellwether to understand how people treat truth and reality in a world where AI is now enabled. Anyways, guys, interesting stuff and lots more of it to come. That's going to do it, however, for today's AI Breakdown. Until next time, peace.